never thought I would have a story like this to tell, but life has a way of surprising you in places you least expect. My name is Rachel Carter, and back when I was in my last year of high school in Oregon, I found myself entangled in a bond one never imagined forming. It wasn't the kind of teenage crush you hear about or some dramatic whirlwind romance. It was deeper, more complicated, and it taught me lessons about boundaries, trust, and how fragile human connections can be. It all began when I took an advanced literature class. My teacher, Mr. Daniel Hayes, was someone people admired. He was in his late 30s, always dressed in neatly pressed shirts, and carried himself with a kind of quiet confidence that made everyone pay attention when he spoke. His passion for literature was contagious. I'd always loved books, but the way he broke down a story, peeling away layers of meaning, made me see them differently. It wasn't just about characters on a page. It was about life, pain, and longing. First, it was nothing unusual. I sat in the front row, scribbling notes, always eager to answer questions. Mr. Hayes noticed my enthusiasm. He would nod approvingly whenever I made a point in class, and sometimes linger a little longer near my desk when we discussed novels. One afternoon he stopped me after class. "Rachel, you have an incredible way of analyzing texts," he said. "Have you ever thought about pursuing writing?" The compliment lit something inside me. My parents, though supportive, weren't the kind to talk much about dreams and ambitions. To hear someone believe in my potential felt powerful. He offered to help me with my essays outside of class, saying it might give me an edge when applying to colleges. I agreed, grateful for the extra guidance. We started meeting in the library during free periods. At first, it was professional. He'd correct my grammar, suggest stronger arguments, and point me toward authors I hadn't read before. But soon our conversations wandered. He asked about my family, my hobbies, even my favorite music. I found myself laughing during those sessions, sharing things I rarely told anyone. There was something comforting about how intently he listened. The line blurred gradually. I didn't notice it until one rainy afternoon when the library was nearly empty. We had been discussing The Great Gatsby when he said, "You remind me of Daisy in some ways. Not because you're shallow, but because people probably don't realize how much depth you really have." I felt my cheeks burn. Compliments from classmates never struck me the way his did. They felt heavy, meaningful, like he saw something in me no one else did. I told myself it was harmless. After all, he was just my teacher and I was just his student. But soon, our meetings spilled into email exchanges late at night. He'd recommend books, sometimes write long reflections about life. His words were thoughtful, personal, and I started looking forward to them more than I should have. I knew deep down it was dangerous, that a teacher wasn't supposed to be so close to a student, but I didn't want to let go of how it made me feel. The real turning point came during a school field trip to Portland. Our class visited a museum, and while others wandered around, Mr. Hayes and I ended up walking side by side. We talked about everything. Our favorite authors, what scared us, what gave us hope. At one point he told me, "You make me remember what it feels like to dream, Rachel. Sometimes adults forget how to do that." His voice was low, almost vulnerable, and it hit me that he wasn't just my teacher in those moments. He was a person, flawed and searching like anyone else. That night, back at the hotel where the students and teachers stayed, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words in my head. Part of me wanted more, wanted to believe this connection was something rare and profound. But another part of me felt guilty. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, thrilling and terrifying at the same time. When we returned home, things intensified. He started giving me books from his own collection, sometimes writing little notes on the inside covers. For Rachel, who sees the world in ways most people never will. I cherished those words, hiding them in a box under my bed as if they were secrets too fragile to share. But secrets weigh heavy. I began withdrawing from friends, unable to explain why I was so distracted. My best friend Emily noticed. One day she confronted me saying, "Rachel, you're different lately. What's going on?" I brushed her off, but the truth gnawed at me. How could I tell her that the one adult we were all supposed to trust had become more than just a teacher to me? The breaking point came one evening after school. I had stayed late to finish an essay, and Mr. Hayes offered to drive me home since it was pouring rain. In the car, the silence stretched between us. Finally, he said, "Rachel, do you ever feel like people come into your life for a reason?" I nodded, my heart pounding. He glanced at me, his expression unreadable. "You've made this year different for me." The words hung in the air like a storm cloud. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to believe it was fate, that we were meant to share this bond. But another part of me was scared. He was my teacher. I was his student. No matter how much we cared for each other, it wasn't right. When I got home that night, I cried. I knew we had crossed a line, even if nothing physical had ever happened. Emotional boundaries mattered too, and ours were broken. A week later, I made the hardest decision of my life. I told him we needed to stop. I said it wasn't healthy, that I couldn't keep carrying a secret that weighed so heavily on me. He looked devastated but didn't argue. "You're right," he said softly. "I let things get too far. I never wanted to hurt you." We ended our meetings, our late-night emails, our quiet conversations. It was painful, like losing someone I loved. But with time I realized it was necessary. I poured my emotions into my writing, channeling all the confusion, longing, and heartbreak into stories. By the time I graduated, I had a new sense of clarity. What happened between us was a reminder that even people we admire can make mistakes. It wasn't my fault for craving connection, nor was it entirely his for finding himself drawn into something complicated. But it was a situation that couldn't last, and shouldn't have. Years later, I look back and see it as a pivotal chapter in my life. It taught me the importance of boundaries, of speaking up when something feels wrong, and of finding healthier ways to seek validation and connection. I never saw Mr. Hayes again after graduation, though sometimes I wonder if he thinks about me, about what we almost became. It wasn't a fairy tale romance or a scandalous affair. It was a secret bond. Intense, complicated, and ultimately unsustainable. But it shaped me into who I am today, a person who knows the value of her own worth and the importance of drawing the line, even when it hurts.